tell you who don't have a son or a daughter for that matter, and that is Mary J. Blige. And you know what? She says she loves her freedom. She is happy that she didn't have any kids because she got plenty of nephews and nieces, and she does not want to have time to find babysitters or do anything that basically would take away from her freedom and her time. Now, there's a second part to that, but before we go to that second part, I'm just curious as to what do you guys think about Mary J's take on being childless, but not only just childless, but now she's also single. So,
Well, listen, I know we talked about this before, right? I'm gonna just jump up in here because I know part of it was whether or not she was being selfish too, right? For not having any kids. Because I think that's part of the conversation for a lot of women now who are saying, hey, if I can't find my guy, I'll just be the rich auntie or whatever. I guess as part of that, it's like, hey, if I can't find the right relationship, I won't have any kids. So there are a lot of women who are choosing not to have kids, or at least that's part of the conversation. Now, I want to be fair to Mary, though, because I think in the context of the conversation, they were asking her in retrospect. I think she's like 51. She was married to Kendu, who had about 3 kids. So at the time, she talked about being good with being a stepmom or whatever. But then when they're asking her about like babysitters or whatever, I mean, this is Mary J. fucking Blige that we're talking about. I don't think in terms of being able to afford a babysitter, that's going to be a real issue for real, right? So I think what I saw, and again, this is my humble opinion, and I said at the top of the show, I'm pretty right a lot. So maybe I'm right here, but again, this is just my opinion. I'm thinking in how I heard her say what she said, it was more like, hey, I am where I am in my life and I'm content, right? I don't want to necessarily be regretful or feel like, hey, I didn't do a certain thing. I think she might have been open at a point in time to having kids, which is different than a woman who is like dead set early on for not wanting to have kids, right? I think she was also married to somebody who had kids, and maybe that was part of what made it work. So maybe she didn't feel the pressure of having to have kids for a person who didn't have any either. But at the same time, I got the impression that she was open to necessarily having kids. It just didn't work out. And I think that's different. You know what I'm saying? I think people who earnestly gave it a shot, who knows if she has other issues or whatever, but I think she was in the game. She got married. She did her thing. It didn't work out. And now she's saying, hey, I'm happy. I'm content with my life. That is completely different than I think some of these young women who are out here abdicating their responsibilities to humanity, for example. That's completely different. We got young people right now who don't understand that life is bigger than just them. You know what I'm saying? And so I think if we're talking about people making that decision, sometimes I do think it's selfish for so many reasons. Like, for example, when I hear about the Ebony K's of the world, the reason why I think that's selfish, for example, is she ended up still having a kid by herself, right? Her selfishness probably came in the form of not being able to be in a relationship with another human being, not being able to plot, to compromise or establish a relationship. So because you want to be selfish as I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, like Tracy Ellis was talking about, right? Then you get to the point where I really want to have a kid. So you don't care about being in a relationship anymore, even though once did. And so now you're having a kid by yourself. To me, like that just is an example of, I think people are moving selfishly, right? And so, yes, some of them may not be in Ebony K's position to decide to want to have kids dolo, but what I am saying is that I think people are fooling themselves. I think some women are fooling themselves if they really believe they don't have that innate desire to maybe still want to be a parent. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? I think there are some women who really feel that way, but I think there's also some women who are tricking themselves to feel that way and then find themselves later in life coming to that realization that, damn, I have regrets. You get what I'm saying? So I'm just cautioning those women to say, hey, listen, dig deep within yourself to wonder why you're not having what you want or why you may not want a thing. Is that your dream or is that not your dream? So I think that's where the regret comes in. But if you're going into it understanding specifically why you don't want to have a kid, I get it. But listen, man, humanity needs to create. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? The responsibility, God put that on y'all. So it is an extra responsibility that y'all have. I do think it's one that requires way more responsibility than y'all currently are giving having kids. You got women out here indiscriminately having children and who shouldn't be, right? And then you have the women who probably should be having kids abdicating their responsibility. What do you think is going to happen when the people who shouldn't be having kids are the ones having kids and the ones who shouldn't be abdicating their responsibility, right? Where do you think that's going to leave humanity at large? And so I'm going to just laugh at that for now.
Okay.
Stop being selfish.
Mary J don't want no kids, and that's just fine. Look, somebody got to be the nice auntie. Somebody got to take the load off the parents when the parents need a break. You know what I mean? There's roles to be filled. I'm proud of her for saying she didn't want to be the full-time parent, saying she didn't have that kind of energy. So you know what? Because that's about people's responsibility to humanity. Your responsibility to humanity is to not raise little effed up human beings because you didn't have the time to give them any attention or any care. That's people's responsibility to humanity. Not to just give birth to one, but to raise one up to be a decent being that could then raise other decent beings, not these simple, single minded, almost single cell brained people who got Orange Guy in office. And I'm not saying that, Republicans shouldn't be born because I don't think it's along party lines. I think there's a certain kind of ideology of person who doesn't view the other human being as an equally valid person. And I think that's problematic. So I'm saying if a person's so selfish, as you put it, to say, I am too selfish to go full time parenting, I don't want to mess up a human being. I'm just going to be the part time. I'll come in, I'll be the auntie, I'll be whatever. I say, I salute you, ma'am. Thank you for your clarity. Thank you for your self awareness. Thank you for not getting in a role that you were unfit for. Thank you for not burdening society with children who are looking for a parent and you off doing something else. I appreciate you for standing in your role, Auntie.
The person who's making the decision to not have kids, do you think that they're more or less likely to be a responsible human being than a person who's out here indiscriminately having kids?
I think the person who's making the decision to not have kids is a more responsible human being.
You're painting the picture that a person who's choosing not to have kids as if they're unfit. There are some people who are fit to have kids, but they're just making the choice not to. So I want to draw that distinction real quick.
I mean, people can make the choice for themselves, and within themselves, they go, "Do I have the capacity within me to do this job with whatever is I think it requires?" And if you look within yourself and you say, "I don't think I have it in me to be a parent," then please don't try it out to see how it works, because somebody's buying a lifelong subscription to your crappy service as a parent. So that's what I'm saying.
You're I'm only saying, I'm just only pushing back that there are a myriad
Uh-huh.
of reasons on why a person would choose to not be a parent, and being unfit does not have to be at the core of them. A person can choose
That's
to not
true
want to have a kid for a myriad of
for a
reasons,
myriad of
and the
reasons.
unfitness may not be the only one. I'm just drawing that distinction.
Right.
You agree or disagree with that?
I know. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, no, I think her, staying on her decision or just making peace with it. I think that is the responsible thing to do. I think the world needs more fun aunties. Well, we may have enough.
No, we
Who
don't.
knows? But deciding to not have kids for a number of reasons. It could be her career. I don't even think we could say she didn't want to have kids for you know. She tried. She tried. She got married. Tried to do the right thing. If it just didn't work out, that's okay. Angela Bassett, she did the surrogacy thing if she decided she wanted to change her mind at some point. So she's got opportunities still if she wanted to, but I think she just made peace with it. And I think that's the much more responsible way to go to humanity versus I'm going to just have a kid regardless of the circumstances, mentally, internally or externally. And I'll just, pawn them off on the maid and the nanny just because I've got the money to do it, and provide an actual healthy upbringing for their kids. So, salute to her for being honest and not putting the kid in a really shitty situation.